Good evening and a very warm welcome on Transcontinental Times, wherever you are. We start in a very different way without our usual motivating video because it's a somber occasion. The great Welsh Nobel poet said, "War does not decide who is right, only who's left." In today's times, those words ring true. As a world ravaged by the pandemic, with 6 million people dead and counting, with many countries still in the grip of huge medical crises. Something till today which we know is nature and not man's creation. How does one deal with what is happening? If anything, the pandemic taught us the values of humanity, family, the value of freedom. And today, by our own human action, we are trying to just do the opposite of that. We have a vaccine for the pandemic because of a wonderful scientists, but what vaccine do we have for greed, misplaced power, and violence? We cannot just stand aside and watch as this plays out in front of us, even though as a generation we are numbed by video games on war, on television series and movies on war, but when the real life images play out, the human cost of it is catastrophic. So each one of us has to make a decision. You cannot let bullies get away. You have learned that in school. 7 years ago, we allowed bullies to get away by taking over the plateau of Crimea. See where that has got us. Each one of us has to make a choice. There are astrologers predicting absolutely cataclysmic events for the next 2 days. I hope they are wrong. But each one of us has to make a choice whether we will choose greed over generosity, whether we will choose cruelty over compassion, whether we will choose misplaced passion over peace, whether we will choose exploitative politics over exploring possibilities for peace, whether we will choose glorification of an individual over grace, whether we will choose violence over valor, whether we will choose proof over propaganda. Which side are you on? Tonight joining me is a friend from Ukraine, Kyiv, Henry Shterenberg. He had joined me 9 months ago to the day on 20th May on this very show where we discussed things like entrepreneurship, hope for the future, growth, the aspirations of the youth. And here we are tonight discussing death, devastation, destruction, and personal greed, where commerce trumps compassion. Welcome to the show, Henry, but it is a somber night that I welcome you on, and I hope it had not come to this.
Thank you very much. By the way, when we and you and I have spoken on this show 9 months ago, I was in Berdyansk. Today, literally, yesterday, Berdyansk was taken over by Russian troops. Local population, local administration refuses to collaborate with the enemy and doing everything they can to sabotage their movement. So this is a somber occasion. My country is under attack. Kyiv is under attack. Ukraine, and I cannot say more. It's not just the country; it's a democracy. It's freedom. Remember, it is what it's all about right now. It's about some insane individual who is threatening us with nuclear weapons as of yesterday. We are in 2022.
I saw that as well, and everybody is frightened. Even if it's a bluff, it is in very poor taste, to say the least. But tell me, Henry, what is the mood on the street like?
I,
Are people, are
this
the
is
locals
this
angry at Europeans, Americans, or just at the
No,
Russians?
no, no. I think that all of Ukrainians are grateful to everybody around the world. As you know, the reason I wanted to do this interview with you, I'm grateful that you are airing it unscheduled. It is because we want people around the world to stand up. And as you saw, demonstrations around the world. We want the Asia. I actually got contacted by Olga Stefanishin, who is a vice prime minister of European integration for Ukraine, and she asked me to ask all the people of Asia to go on the streets in their capitals, in their cities, and to support Ukraine. The world must see this. We just right now, as you and I just got lunch, with the Kharkiv is being bombed. People are being civilians are being killed. There's pieces of body are being shown right now on the local Telegram channels. This is a real war. This I have never imagined I would be in the middle of a war. This is surreal. It
Well,
all your everything you work on, it just doesn't matter anymore.
just want caught that word uncivilian very interesting, because it is the civilized world that created the first two world wars, and it is the civilized world that is doing this, yet the so-called uncivilized world gets all the lecture on how to behave. It is just amazing. But just to on another point, as we go through this, we have watched President Zelensky conduct himself with such valor, courage,
Absolutely.
dignity, and with just awesome leadership skills. It's a lesson for everybody in whatever phase of life they are, whatever they do, on how to conduct yourself in adversity. From being a comic to managing a crisis, that journey has been pretty quick.
He is amazing. It's a story I share here in Ukraine all the time. In 2014, when he was a comedian, I was still in America. Somebody introduced me to his show, and that was during the Crimea crisis, the eastern part. 8 years ago, and they motivated me so much. That's one reason I'm here, because of their, as a group, motivation through humor. Today, he is saving the world. I mean, this is a leadership that we want to see from every leader anywhere. And I'm taking a lot of lessons from what he does as a business leader. And my job right now is to do what I can to contribute by speaking to you and many others, as I'm doing right now, to make sure that people understand nothing united Ukraine more right now that this type of aggression. Everybody on the street are with the gun. I have no idea what the plan was, but a couple days ago in Kyiv, they give out 25,000 weapons to civilians. Everybody's ready to defend their home, their country, their friends, families. We're
We
talking
have
about
seen.
a big humanitarian crisis. 350,000 Ukrainians already left the country. People spent several nights in Kyiv, friends of mine, in metro. Right now, this morning I walked out, there was a line just because the store were closed. Everything was under martial law. So this is, I want the world to hear. I want the world to speak up. Obviously, one of the key things right now is to support in any way we can. But as soon as it's over, it is our duty, yours, mine, and everybody else, to provide Ukraine with support it needs to rebuild and become flourishing economy for 40 million people.
So, Henry, for many people who are not as familiar with the crisis in Ukraine as such, now wars are fought over ideology, religion, resources. This one people don't comprehend. What's happening?
Again, the resources, you remember, I'm not sure I understand the question correctly, but Ukraine is extremely diverse country. It has many, many religions. It's very diverse in every respect you can possibly imagine. I am a Russian speaking, right? I was born speaking Russian. Putin talks about genocide. I've been to Lugansk, Donetsk. I spoke in those areas. I understand and I speak Russian everywhere. I don't speak Ukrainian very well. I understand it, but I don't speak Ukrainian very well. I have never been in any way, shape, or form, somehow offended by anyone because I spoke Russian. There's no
So
genocide of any kind. There's no.
that was my question. That for us on the outside, we don't get it. This is not about religion. This is not about
It's not.
resources. This is not about politics. What is it about? I mean,
It is one's man grieve over breakup of Soviet Union. It is absolutely Putin's way of trying to get countries that are part of former Soviet Union. There were 15 republics, those of you who don't know, and Ukraine was obviously one of the major ones. It is part of Putin's way of controlling all the neighbors and influence them. And it's part of the way he wants to rebuild somehow Russia's empire. which will never happen. Russia already lost. If you listen to what's happening of how united the world is against Russia, it is amazing how bad it's going to hit Russian people, regular people who never voted for anything of that nature, who never wanted to see those people whose parents died and parents and grandparents died on World War II on this soil. Think about it. Since the first, what we're seeing in Kyiv now is we have not seen since 1941.
Wow.
That's a reality. We have not seen this since 1945 in Europe. And we're seeing this now, literally today.
And has this war completely united the people? Is everybody behind the president?
President Zelensky is a national hero, irrespective of how the rest of this plays out. He's now has 91%, as of this morning I heard, 91% approval rating by all. And remember, his ratings politically were going down to tubes due to a lot of mistakes on a day-to-day basis through the economy, which was very challenging one way or the other. There was many mistakes, scandals. It's not about him personally, but the people around him. Yet at the time of crisis, at the time where everything is on the line, this man who were a comedian, as you said, 3 years ago, stood up to the world, I'm talking about, he stood up to Biden. He stood up to Putin. He did not give up the values of Ukrainian. He did not give up the wants of Ukrainian of being free. He did not give up the independence. He stood firm to people like Putin. And now we see how Putin's army is crashing. Why? Russian soldiers are being captured all over the place right now. Are simply, most of them, as they say, do not know where they were going. They have no reason to be in this war. Russian, we're talking about kids, 18 to 22-year-olds, Russian kids. Right now, one of our top officials asked Red Cross to send basically emergency mission to Ukraine to pick up the bodies of Russian soldiers.
Wow.
Russians are being abandoned here in Ukraine.
And that doesn't give joy to anybody, right?
No,
I know it's a war.
Young guy, 18. My son is 23.
Yeah, that's it.
My daughter is 21.
And that's the point I was making in the opening. Just like when the pandemic started in China and everybody put their head in the sand thinking it won't happen in their country, I strongly believe that putting your head in the sand right now won't help. You have to take a position because this will spread.
Absolutely.
This is the start of a huge negative thing happening in the world. It will spread. And that's the point I was trying to make. And whether the people die on this side or that side, a human life is a human life. It's precious.
100%. But you know what? I've been a very big supporter, as you know, and scream as loud as I can about Ukraine opportunity for many years now. I have lived an American dream, and I'm grateful to America. I'm a citizen of America. Yet I have never felt inside what I feel for Ukraine now. The patriotism, just me, somebody who did not spend most of his life in Ukraine due to life circumstances. I feel this is my country, this is my city, this is my people, and I will continue to do what we've been doing prior to this catastrophic war. There will be things before and after, and this is one of those things. Right now, everything changed about figuring out how to get yourself. Remember Maslow pyramid? We talk all about, right? Safety, food, all of that on the bottom. This is where we are now. This is Putin already lost this war. He can no longer win this war. It's over.
That's true.
We want to stop human suffering right now.
I couldn't agree more because as far as people's hearts and minds all over the world are concerned, they beat for Ukraine and everybody is with you. But tell me something, what can ordinary civil society people in other parts of the world do to help?
In this time, at this moment, right now, the best way to do so is to go out there and publicly support through social media by being on the streets everywhere around the world. That's number one. That's phase number one. Right now, clearly, we want to stop the fighting. We want to stop the killing. We want to stop the suffering. That's number one. Number two, as we are building the infrastructure right now, this is all I can do to make sure that we are ready for after. And one of the programs, as you and I will share, we'll discuss, is going to be United Students of Ukraine. We want to be able to give as much assistance as possible to young people of Ukraine, not that other people are not as important, or in order to make sure, because their shoulders will carry the future of Ukraine. We want to give them resources, expertise, knowledge, everything you're already doing every day in Indonesia and India, and I'm doing in Ukraine, as you know. So our job is to do that. Number three is obviously we need to make sure that we're gonna start working systematically of providing Ukraine the strategic partnership management know-how in order to allow decentralization opportunity to build economy bottom up to happen as soon as it's over. That's the best thing we can do.
Well, that is definitely something I would ask all our viewers to participate in. You yourself have been in the forefront. I have been watching your social media posts, going out into the city and giving out messages, etc. Is that something a lot of people are doing, or is it martial law and people are locked out?
There is a martial law. I walk out in the morning. By absolute coincidence, I'm physically right next to American embassy in Kyiv. That's why when I walk out in the morning, I go take a picture and do my whatever I can. There's so many heroes around Ukraine right now. This is the least I can do by speaking to you, others around the world. I have a big network, and I'm trying to promote what's happening by making sure people understand how bad this is. This is a real war. We read books, watch movies about it. Nothing like you seeing it, hearing it, silences, people hiding. You have military walking in your buildings. It is impossible to describe or to really share it in a way unless you experience it. And I don't wish anyone to experience it, obviously.
That's what I meant when I said that, with all these modern video games and movies, etc., we get to get desensitized to violence. And when it actually happens in front of you, there are often no words to describe it, the sheer horrors of war. So,
Absolutely. There's also we started gonna be seeing, especially in Kyiv right now, we're gonna start seeing supply issues, right? With medicine, food, water. Obviously, luckily, besides Berdyansk, no other cities in Ukraine were taken over. So supply still works. People still have water. We still have electricity. It goes in and out. Yet, obviously, if it continues much longer, it's going to be crisis, and we hopefully, obviously, we want to avoid that as much as we can.
so the water, electricity. What about food? Is it still
Well, I haven't been to anywhere. Luckily, I had enough. I'm by myself with a little dog, so I'm not suffering in any way right now. Plus, I have enough weight to lose. The idea behind is that obviously there's many other people who need much more food than I do in different parts of the country. I gave out. I had bottled many big boxes of water. I gave out them as I walked on the streets the first day of war. People need whatever they can do, and what I
but in
can
the
do.
capital city, do you get the sounds of war?
Oh
You
yeah,
get
absolutely. I mean, I heard bombing this morning. I mean, it was I don't know exactly where it was for me, but it was nearby. You could hear it. The sirens, as people run into the hiding places, basements, etc., parking lots. Nalin, it's a war. There's not it is a war.
did the final question, before I leave you to give a message, did people in Ukraine expect it to go to this, or was there hope that it won't?
Obviously, nobody wanted a war. Everybody, I mean, there were people were stressed about it. People will start losing business deals and all that. There was just, well, I mean, not good signs. But when that war broke out, the united Ukrainians stood up. They spoke up. They did not give up. They, persevering right now. People took up guns to defend their home. We want peace. We want Ukraine to be prosperous. But Ukraine is a free country, and nobody will tell Ukrainians what to do. That's the key. Someone like Putin should be stopped immediately. And I'm so fascinated to see of how world unites around Ukraine, how they are bringing down the Russian economy to its knees. And thank you, Nalin, for being on my side and being there with me.
Thank you,
And
Henry. With you always. Stay safe, and hopefully we'll speak in better times.
absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you. Talk.
Thank you. So we here heard from Ukraine directly tonight, and I repeat, it is a choice each one of us has to make. A choice of whether we will choose generosity over greed, whether we will choose compassion over cruelty, peace over misplaced passion, whether we will explore possibilities of peace for over exploitive politics, whether we will choose grace over glorification of violence, whether we will choose valor over violence. And finally, in making your decision, whether you will choose hard evidence and proof over propaganda. With that, I leave you tonight. Keep Ukraine in your hearts and prayers, and let's hope that this situation de escalates as quickly as it has escalated. Thank you and good night.